because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
How's it, guys? Welcome back to the Go Track, the South African podcast where we sometimes talk about very good golfers, but generally talk about our favorite courses, 19th holes and halfway pies, plus anything else that is good in the golf or golf adjacent world. It's Terence here. This week we chat about Mashie golf, actually, and why it needs to make a big comeback in SA, in our opinion. We review a new Mashie course in Durban. And Mr. de Villiers finishes us off with his rather contentious rating of the only 7 Mashie courses in KZN that we could name. Spoiler alert, 2 of them apparently don't actually exist anymore. Super fun episode, and over to the podcast now. I want to start off by saying I think we had a whole lot of new listeners for our last podcast. Really an awesome feedback that we got from lots of different people. So shout out to Guy Smith from Gowrie Farm and for doing the interview with us. And obviously it speaks a lot about how excited people are about what's going on at Gowrie, and also hearing about Guy's kind of background and his knowledge on classical design, and we've had the number of downloads and that on that episode has been great. So if you are kind of tuning in to our podcast, having listened to that episode, you may not get the same quality of information today, but we will do our best. This is what we try and do is kind of alternate between trying to get sort of topics on, and then we typically have a little bit of normal golf banter. But today we want to talk about Mashie golf, and Jacques and myself had the privilege today, if we can call it that, the time in our lives. We went and played a new little Mashie golf course here in KZN in Hillcrest, and we just wanted to share a little bit about it, and then just talk a little bit about Mashie golf in general. What are your kind of thoughts on when you think of the word Mashie golf? Where does your mind go sort of straight away, Jacques?
Terence, I just want to say, in honor of last week's podcast, I am going to click my pen through the entire podcast. my brother thought that, he was like,
please don't.
My brother said, I thought it was a fire in the background that was crackling. He was like, it was actually pretty soothing. I thought the guys were sitting there having a podcast next to a fire. I was like, I'm glad that's what came through. But onto the Mashie. Oh, sorry, just to round off, I do think it was an epic podcast. Very interesting to hear someone with some real golf knowledge and golf architecture knowledge run you through it, and some of the decisions and the ideas behind it, and how those ideas became reality, and some of the hurdles that he faced that I don't think we even really envisage as golfers going out there. You sort of just think it's laid out there in front of you as it is, and no one really gives a lot of thought to how it was all planned. And I think maybe a good segue for that is from Gowrie to the latest par 3 Mashie course that opened at the NU range in Shongweni, called the Hill. Mashie honestly takes me to probably getting into golf. I think that's where everyone sort of first has their golf experiences around a Mashie course or a chip and putt. I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, it almost feels like when you play it, it's something that you wonder why you don't do more often. It's quick, it's fun, you still get the competition and the banter that you get with a round of golf, but it's like the T20 of cricket. I'm not a massive cricket fan. I did regale you with my under 14 M captaincy story in a podcast before, but that's the sort of feeling I get. And yeah, it was lucky to be out there playing a bit of Mashie. 45 minutes, we were done. And I think it's an underrated aspect of golf.
It's really similar thoughts around it. I mean, it was that type of golf is where I started playing as well. We had a small. I'm not even sure if it was a 9-hole Mashie course. I feel like there maybe were only 4 or 5 holes in the little town that I grew up on, and I remember walking around there. It was kind of adjacent to the main course in Springs, and yeah, I mean, it was probably in terrible condition, but that was, as kids, you don't really know any better. And then kind of my next kind of follow-up memories are having spent quite a bit of time in the UK. Mashie golf, they go between calling it pitch and putt and Mashie, but that type of golf is massive in the UK. I mean, you in the countryside, in a lot of the rural areas, you can't drive, more than a couple of miles, and you come across like a pitch and putt, whether it's connected to like a campsite or a holiday resort, or whether there's some like really like seriously like high quality ones as well, with like mad layouts, like tree lined things, and spent a couple of summers in the UK, and I played quite a bit of it with my dad, who became in his later years when we played on the real golf course, he was an absolute demon around the greens. And then I worked out why, because he was going to these like pitch and putts like like 4 times a week in his kind of in his 50s, when the kids and that were out of the house. He was literally like hitting these things hard, and he became an absolute short game demon. So those are kind of my Mashie memories. And then I guess at university we used to go and play at the River Club in Cape Town. The River Club, I think it's the River Club, or was it Riverside?
It is the River Club.
The driving range.
It's the I know which one you're talking
River
about.
Club in Observatory. Yeah, and played a lot of golf there on that little Mashie course. Probably one of the best ones I've played in South Africa. I had a lot of fun on that course. So you were telling me today on the course where that word comes from.
Yeah, so the Mashie, and this was based on quite intense research I did by typing it into Google, comes from the golf club called a Mashie, which was a 33-degree club, but was more similar to a sort of a 5 or a 6 iron, or it's actually a 7 iron today. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the sort of idea of where Mashie came from, was the golf club, and then I think obviously got transformed into the word we use today is to describe the golf course, which is that sort of length. But I think back to the Mashie that we played today. I think it's safe to say that that's a
side question on that. So why did none of the live teams, why did none of them get the name Mashie? Do you reckon that was thrown around as a possibility?
I think I would rather have been called the Mashies than the Cliques, but I don't know. What would you have replaced? Which team would you have replaced?
Maybe that's where Smashy. Maybe that's where Smash came from. The Smashies. No, I don't really care. It's just that they did pick up some of those names from some of those old clubs. So Mashie could have been one, but anyway. I mean, I think it's obviously just describes any kind of like short form of the game, I guess. But let's get into the hill now. Just my initial thoughts on it. Really, for me, this is the model of how really we need to look at growing the game of golf in this country. I don't think we have nearly enough of these short courses that are accessible to young people who've just picked up the game, who maybe have spent a little bit of time at a local driving range, whatever, and are now ready to start, getting onto the course, learning a little bit of chipping and putting, learning some course etiquettes. We seem to have a model in this country of having driving ranges and then having like just the straight leap up to the big 18-hole golf course. And we don't have nearly enough of the in-between stuff. And yeah, so I want to just give these guys a shout out. We don't really know who has built this little course, but particularly that these days when land is at such a premium, to find space, and I'm assuming there's reasons why the space hasn't been developed, or maybe will be developed at some point, but to kind of have the gumption to go and say, let's do a little short course. It's really cool. And I think they've done the course really, really well. I mean, firstly, like you and I were both quite amazed at the kind of quality of the greens for a course of this nature. Sometimes you expect to be sort of like having to take a weed eater out there with you, and to kind of mow your lines before you putt. That certainly wasn't the case there. I mean, I think they've put some really good, decent quality turf down, or good quality grass down. They've looked after it. It's grown through really nicely. The ball was stopping on the greens, a little bit of spin. There was the ball was rolling nice when we were putting, which is really all you ask for. I mean, they're not big greens by any stretch of the imagination. Sort of probably a bit smaller than the size of the dance floor at your wedding, I guess, Jacques.
we had a bigger dance floor at our wedding. but no, well, I think that point goes for country courses as well. And man, maybe that's that it doesn't really matter what the condition of everything around it is. If you've got some reasonably good surfaces to putt on, especially where putting is meant to be pretty much half of what you're doing in the chip and putt. I mean, it's 50% of the name. You've got to have a reasonable putting surface. I mean, I think it would be a bit of a waste of time if you went out there to play a pitch and putt and your putting was an absolute lottery, or you might as well be putting on the fairway. That being said, I also think it's catering for a different market. So if it was crappy greens, I think it would still be enjoyable. I mean, it brings a different aspect into it. But I certainly think if you look at the greens we played today at the Hill, it's better than some of the other greens. I mean, on some proper established courses, and also bearing in mind that they were probably only put in a couple of months ago. I was very impressed by those greens. And when I say very impressed, I mean that's obviously relative. But
I didn't think you would have a go at Kloof Country Club so early in this podcast. But
look, Kloof Country Club can have some.
Let's bring it up right now.
Yeah, they can Kloof. Look, I will give Kloof their due. They can have some unbelievably good putting surfaces, but I've also had Kloof in some pretty poor putting conditions. I think like any course, but certainly they were better than Durban Country Club at one stage. I mean, Durban Country Club, when we played there, when the greens had been killed, it was, there was barely any grass on those greens, and the holes looked like a dog had bitten a hole in the middle of it. So, I mean, a little drive-by on Durban Country Club, but the greens are a big thing to get right, and like I said, I was pretty impressed. I mean, there's no real undulations or anything, and I mean, the size of those greens were slightly bigger than a dinner plate, but yeah, they were good. I mean, it's exactly what you needed for the sort of course that it is.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you think about it, like I think you touched on it now. Like in a normal round of golf, you probably, let's say between putting and chipping, if you're a 10 handicap, let's say, that probably is making up what would you say, like 40 strokes in a normal round of golf? I mean, I don't know if that's been 40. Unreasonable, or if that's a bad. Yeah, if that's a bad day.
So you 3 putting, you 2 putting everything, and 3 putting 4 times. I think you're a pretty bad 10 and
No,
you're pretty shitty
no.
putter.
I mean, with chipping, like between putting and chipping,
Yeah.
you're probably going to have between 30 to 40 putts and chips in a normal round of golf, right?
Well, I mean, especially, but the chips that you're talking about, are you talking about like a 60-degree pitch? Are you including that in the number, or are you talking about like actual little chips around the green?
No, I guess it's the stuff closer to the green, but yeah, maybe it's also the approach shots like we were hitting today as well. You know, the 50-meter, 60 degrees in that. And so if you think about it, that's half of your round, right?
Yeah.
That just goes to that part of the game. So what these facilities do is they give you an opportunity to like basically go and take half of your round. I mean, literally, you today we only. I mean, we used 3 clubs, and one of those clubs I think I only used twice, the whole way around. You know, so you've got an opportunity to walk around with 2 clubs in your hand and practice essentially like 50% of what your game would be on a normal course. So I mean, that's really what. And now I'm talking about what that brings to us as actual golfers, not what it brings to people who are just trying to enter the game and all of that. So they're so valuable in that sense, you know, like in terms of like offering, like you could go there, like I could go there with my son, and you know he's learning how to play the game, and for him it would be like, you know, that's like a full course, and I can go and I'm there to sort of hone my short game and that. So they're super valuable, and we just it's great to see like someone investing in a new one, and not just because I know and we can talk about some of the other ones in KZN. Some of them are like pretty ropey and have been around for like decades, and it's so cool to see a new one because as I said to you today, I would really like to look at establishing one. I've been looking at one up on the North Coast here. I just think it's a great little model for bringing people into the game, creating just I think there's a lot of social stuff you can do around it as well. If you get a nice little bit of a mini clubhouse vibe going or whatever, you know, it's golf outside of just the country club kind of golf, you know.
But I think Terence, if I think about what you're mentioning there in terms of using it as, you know, an entry to the game for a lot of players, and especially younger players who, you know, probably can't hit the distances that are required on some of the longer courses. And, you know, I'm thinking guys playing their first couple of rounds. But if you're practicing, I mean, unless you're going to go and sort of aim for a, you know, like a net or something, 60 meters or 70 meters out, and then go and spend like another, you know, separate half an hour putting on a putting green. You know, it's actually quite a fun way to go out there and you know, combine the two and do it in, you know, a way where it almost emulates what you would do in the golf course in terms of, you know, obviously playing the holes. So it's, you know, for me, it's a much more fun way of practicing the short game, if that's why you're going out there, than, you know, banging, you know, whatever it is, 20 or 30 or 40 60 meter or 70 meter shots, and then going and spending half an hour on the putting green. You know, I really enjoyed the Mashie, and from, you know, we played it as a match play, and, you know, looking back on some of the footage, I had made the rule in my mind that we were only allowed to chip from off the green, but I saw you putted from off the green for, you know, at least the first 4 holes. So I think we can disqualify you quite comfortably from today's match and restart.
Here we go.
But yeah, I think it's a much better way to practice your short game. Well, for me at least, who's a casual golfer, to practice my short game, you know, having fun playing a match play with someone on a Mashie, than, you know, sitting in a range and you know, hitting 50 shots, 80 meters, and then spending half an hour on the putting green.
It's the first time I've heard you refer to yourself as a casual golfer. If you're a casual golfer, then I wonder what I am, because I always thought that you were quite an avid golfer.
Sorry,
but anyway,
an avid but not a professional golfer. I was thinking about just my practice routine.
Okay. Right. Just how you practice before the round you play every week.
Correct.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy either today, Jacques. I mean, I think I only hit one like green in regulation today. So I know the greens are small and that, but I mean it is still just like a 50-meter shot.
Can you just appreciate how that makes me feel, Terence, that you hit one green in regulation and still won the match?
Okay, spoiler alert. Yeah, but look, I try and play myself out there. I don't worry about my opponent. So he's going to do what he's going to do. But the point is the location of this particular course. I mean, it's called the Hill for a reason. It is literally right up on top of a hill, sort of overlooking the kind of Shongweni Hillcrest area, super exposed. And I mean, today we played it in probably tough-ish conditions. I mean, there was a solid like breeze blowing, and I mean, I know it's only a 50 or 60 meter pitch, but on some of the holes it was straight downwind, and on some of them it was straight into us. So it was. I mean, it was good fun. I mean, they were challenging little. There's quite a bit of elevation change there as well. So it's a nice, really nice little test for your game, and also just like fun, man. Like sometimes I think we get caught up in like, golf is just like 18-hole golf, like driver and whatever. Like, I don't know. To me, I don't know about you, Jacques. I was fortunate. I grew up on a like quite a large property where I grew up. We had like I don't know what it would be now. I guess it was like an acre. It wasn't like a farm, but it was a decent sized property in a residential area. And I played so much like golf around my garden as a kid. And when I think about golf, like I don't just think about playing on like a course. You know what I mean? Like I think about golf like putting in my boarding school dormitory, like having putting competitions with mates, and playing around my garden, and all of that stuff to me is golf. So like playing a course like this, it's not like, oh, this is not like 18 holes of golf. Like to me, this is golf, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like it's trying to hit the same white ball into a hole, and it's fun.
But also, I mean, you're not too worried about the score that you shooting. I mean, I don't know what my score was, and I think that sometimes, and I'm certainly guilty of this, that you get obsessed with what you are shooting in 18 holes. I made a bogey, or let me try and save like par here and the rest of it. Whereas today, we didn't really give a shit what our score at the end of the day was. We went out there to play each other. And sometimes, then it doesn't really matter what par is, or, where you are. You're both playing the same course, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's a mindset change, and I think that is certainly in South Africa, that sort of stroke play mentality that we have. And I think Guy Smith touched on it a lot last week, where he was talking about, when he went to Scotland, and the guys were playing a lot of match play, and it didn't really matter what par was, or what the sort of how the hole set up to play a par four. It's like, no, it doesn't really matter what someone shoots. If you drive the green, and if it's drivable par four, or whatever the case is, if you're playing each other, pars are irrelevant. And I sort of felt like that today when we played in the Mashie, and I think that's it can be a mindset shift, that it is pretty epic, that like today I don't know what I shot, and it actually is irrelevant what I shot. You are using your golf skills, or lack thereof, to play your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do have a bit of a mindset, and this is maybe something that I think places like this bring to the game. And I look at the trends that are happening now in like trying to bring more people into the game of golf. If you look at things like Top Golf, where you're on a driving range, but they've gamified the driving range, so you're trying to hit it into a bucket or a circle, whether it's a virtual reality or augmented reality or whatever it is, or you're doing it closest to the pin comp, or you're playing on putting, like they have like not just putt, but they have these like real like hardcore like putting courses now, which have got crazy undulations. And
well, Tiger Woods is putting millions of dollars into like a entire putt emporium.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm referring to. Is he's got a putt. It's called pop stroke or something like that. That they are building, and I mean these things are doing well. Hey? And I mean, so you and I touched on it earlier. Like, I mean, these things are doing well because they bringing people into the game who don't want to go to like a stuffy country club and golf is hard enough as it is just to like hit the ball. Like now you got to go do it in front of a whole bunch of like stuffy, like, you know, old white men. Like that's not very inviting for a lot of people, you know. And you're making it more accessible. You're doing it after hours. It's under lights. It's easier to learn. They've gamified it, so yeah. There's lots of. I think South Africa is obviously a little bit behind on that, but I'm seeing some of the stuff that's coming up now with screen golf. You know, I'm seeing these screen golf bars that are popping up. I know at Mount Edgecombe they recently redid their whole driving range, and they've got these, you know, this TrackMan system now, making it more of a social scene. The driving range, you know, go there with a whole bunch of mates, and like almost making it a bit like temp bowling, you know,
Yeah.
where you sit around and you've got a few drinks and everyone has their go and you're playing a certain game, and that's cool, man. That's fun. That's making, and to me, all of that is golf, and it's not 18 holes. I think we need to get to a point where out of this mindset of like golf is just 18 holes of golf. You know, I think hitting a ball, regardless of the setting, if it's a driving range, if it's a mashie, if it's a putt, if it's 18 holes, if it's 9 holes, hitting a golf ball and watching it fly in the air or watching it roll along the ground, and you're going for a certain target and you're playing against someone is that's golf. Like, and that's what we need more of. And yeah, so these courses, I mean, what would you say? And if I talk about the positives of the hill today, I think I think they've done a really great job. They've done a lot of shaping there. So like we were saying that probably in like a year's time, you know, they've landscaped a lot of like little hills, and it's gonna really look quite nice, you know, with that shaping and that they've done. What were the other like big positives for you? And we can talk about it, maybe a couple of negatives or a couple of ideas that we had, but what are the other sort of positives that you had today?
Look, I think the setting was one. I mean, you know, it's quite cool to have it on that hill. Look, I mean, your views of the M13, but it's an elevated view. You know, you could you could. There were actually some really nice views. I mean, I liked a lot of the little paths that they had, and I know that's not a golf course architecture thing, but I mean, you think about that little path from the second green to the third tee. You know, the coming in there, you can see they're building a deck. So as you said about having a little clubhouse vibe, you know, you clearly can see that they're trying to make it a bit linksy with some of the undulations or some of the sort of the humps and bumps that they're making. You know, it's quite clear the hole that's laid out for you. You know, the two bunkers on the course were very well placed. But yeah, look, I honestly think it's just such a great opportunity to be there and to be in that spot. And to be honest, like you said, you didn't need a big piece of land to do it. And you know, I look at and you know, I look at somewhere like Fig Tree, which could also easily do a mashie like that. And you know, obviously maybe two mashies in that same sort of upper highway area is a bit much, but you were saying somewhere in the north coast needs a mashie like that. You know, we can look at the south coast that's got probably Sandomir. I can't think of any other ones that are standouts. You know, central Durban's got Windsor, and then there's sort of a lack of mashies. You know, I think you so sorry, I'm diverging or deviating from the question there, but yeah, I really think that there's a lot going for it. I think my main positive was almost like not the quirkiness, but just the like the paths and the, you know, the little steps to the tee boxes. It wasn't just like tromping up a hill or like some uneven tee box that you had, or you know, they'd done actually quite a lot of shaping to make it quite playable, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. You know, like I said, I think firstly they've done a proper job with the greens, which that immediately, and I think, you know, maybe as a beginner golfer you wouldn't really notice, but for us as, you know, like golfers, that's great, because then you feel like you're getting your value from putting on greens which are pretty good. I think they've sculpted it quite nicely. I think raising raising the tee boxes. I think they've done a good job with the tee boxes. I don't know. I guess you could argue that it's debatable whether or not like hitting off Astro for every tee box is a good or a bad thing.
It's
In
sustainable.
terms
Though. I
of
mean, you think about how big
yeah.
a tee box has to be. You got to move the tees around so that grass can recover. I mean, I just don't think it's feasible to not have, for that sort of a course, to have that sort of a tee box. I think the other positive, sorry, Terence, just to while I've got the floor here, and I'm going to steal your point, was well, imagine I'm stealing your point here, was that idea that people under 13 get play free. I mean, that is a huge positive. And again, speaks to, getting people into the game, dads and lads going to play. Imagine a bunch of like one dad taking, three of his latte and his mates there and to go play. I think that's a huge positive, Terence.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I just got to commend them on that. I got to be honest. If I was setting one up here, I'd have to give that some thought. But if you think about it carefully, I mean that is on the condition that they are supervised, from what I understand. So essentially, they want, someone has to be paying for that group. But geez, what an epic way to for people to go, and what a great incentive for you to go down there and with your kids, and you pay for your round. And look, okay, so we were chatting on the course. It's 120 rand to play, and where does that sit it as an activity relative to other activities that you do for like an hour? And I mean, I think what we came away with is that it's more or less on the same level as what you pay to play paddle. Roughly, I mean, it's ballpark sort of paddle fees, probably roughly the same amount of time. I know a lot of people like to play paddle for about 90 minutes, whereas I think it only took us an
An
hour to
hour,
go
probably,
around the
yeah.
Mashie. Yeah. So, and given the fact that it's that course requires quite a bit of maintenance, and yeah, I have no issue with that fee. There's probably opportunities for them to look at doing some sort of membership, or maybe you have a monthly fee that you can pay and you can play like unlimited. I don't know. There's probably all sorts of potential kind of opportunities there. But yeah, a huge shout out that they're doing kind of under 13s for free, because that's really what's going to drive guys. And you get guys going and playing now when they 10. Like, I look at my son is now 9. He just turned 9. I mean, he loves playing golf, and that you get them playing for a couple of years, and then they're golfers, and then they're playing, they go there with their mates when they're 15, 16, and they're customers now, so kind of investing in the future there.
Can I
Talking
hit?
about sort
Sorry,
of,
can I hit some of the
yeah,
negatives that I had?
yeah, well, I guess the the opportunities, and like I was talking about the thing, but I think, yeah, it'll be worth looking at lights, and whether or not it's feasible to bring lights in, because that now opens you up to a whole like market of playing into the evening, which which can bring a lot more people into it. What were the negatives you were thinking of?
We chatted about it briefly, but opening a bit earlier, getting around and before work. I think about paddle. You used the example. If I play paddle, I like to play before work, and then it's done and dusted, and it's a nice way to start the day. I think that only opens at 10 in the morning. And look, I can understand the guys need to do their maintenance. Oaks also don't want to get there at Sparrows and stay there the whole day, especially if no one arrives to play. Obviously, the other one was variation of distances. I wrote here. I think all of them were sort of between 60 and 90, or 60 and 80. Even if you had one sort of 50-meter and then made one like 115, for instance, I think just you could have a bit more variation than a sort of 3/4 full 60 degree for every shot. But I do understand that probably has a lot to do with the space that they were working with. I think that was my only real negatives that I had. I was gonna sort of make a joke about you couldn't book your tea time, but I don't think you need to.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably splitting hairs with because it's funny because I actually had that same thought about the variation of distances because there's a lot of like 60 meter holes there.
Yeah,
I think the shortest hole was actually 50. It was 52, I think.
I think that one that was that I think that hole that was 52, we both hit it about 152, if I remember correctly.
Well, on the second hole, you almost, if that net wasn't in the way, your ball was heading down onto the M13.
I was going to say if that net wasn't in the way, I think your and my car were in jeopardy a bit.
Yeah, I mean 71, 55, 60, 56, 52, 66. Okay, 92, 52, 69. So they didn't have anything between 70 and 90. I mean, we're really splitting hairs now, but like it is a worthwhile point. I mean, if you let's say you had a hole at, let's say you had one at 75, one at 80, and maybe one at like 100, then you've got quite a nice spread. It did feel like we were hitting the same sort of 60 meter shot. But again, we had the different wind and stuff to contend with.
But I would even be saying make one 40 meters and then make one 115. It's two very different shots, as you say, apart from just hitting that same sort of distance over and over. But I'm splitting hairs here.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to find stuff to complain about. And probably they honestly could probably do that. Down the line. I looked. I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess how much it cost them to probably set that course up. But down the line, I guess they could look at, okay, maybe we pull in maybe you create like different tee boxes, so you get guys who you want to go around there twice, and you could play a hole from a different angle or slightly different distance. Honestly, you'd probably only talking to like the sort of 10 or 15% of people who
absolutely,
and we probably fall into that camp. So we probably sort of barking up the wrong tree on that side. But Jacques, I want to just kind of round out now, like where do you like? Okay, well, did you want to touch on any other sort of Mashie courses or kind of give a shout out where you think they've got it really right or wrong, or I mean, are they all just kind of similar in your mind? The other courses that are, I don't know, that are set up like this.
So I think, look, Mashie courses in KZN, I racked my brain, and I'm sure I've left out, but I mean, we could only really think of 7 or 8 if you count Simbiti, which I don't think we can. Hof's not part of this podcast, otherwise he would absolutely count Simbiti, but I don't think it's a Mashie.
Oh, Hoff, yes, hates to be controversial.
Yeah, he was.
Imagine like that was the sort of tagline of Simbiti, like your
the
executive Mashie, or
well, exactly, like, or the tagline of this podcast is Simbiti a Mashie.
Is Simbiti, debate,
debate. We should that would actually be a good one.
Listen, they okay. So I mean, we can talk about this because I'll be honest, I don't know whether it's worth even talking about any of the other matches. There aren't really any other great.
Well, look, let me just name the ones that I've got, just in case anyone's got 45
just for
minutes.
The record. If you're looking at doing a tour of Mashies of KZN and you've made it this far on the podcast, then you're in the right place. Well done.
Well done for waiting with bated breath while we danced around the subject and talked about 69
the exclusive directory. Yeah.
So here they are.
This is what people came. This is what people came for, by the way.
The definitive list of Mashies of KZN is
Is this in any particular order, or is this? Is this going to be just?
I was going to say I was going to say no
preference?
particular order, but I am going to actually give this an order. I'm going to go from worst to best. the 7 courses that we've
Oh,
identified.
fantastic. This is what we want.
I'm going
We
to
want
start.
opinions here.
I'm going to start with what I think, and
Are you going to include the hill in this, by the way?
Yes, I've got it here. Okay, so
Okay.
I think.
Okay, drum roll.
Okay, so I think the worst of the 7 I have here has to be Saddle and Trout. So that's my number 7. Yeah, I mean, look, it's fun.
At least they've still got the Saddle and Trout still has better flags than Cathedral Peak.
That's true. Look, yeah, I mean,
Just putting it out there.
Well, for everyone waiting with bated breath, we're doing an entire podcast
we
on
will
just
give it to them.
flags in KZN. So
yeah. Anyway, I'm jumping in here. Okay, so Saddle and Trout.
Okay, so Saddle and Trout's my number 7. And look, yeah, enough said about Saddle and Trout. Okay, so my number 6, I'm going to go with Draxun. Now, there was some debate about whether Draxun had a Mashie or not. Terence and I actually played the Mashie at Draxun, and Terence can't remember it, which should tell you quite a lot about it. I don't know if it's...
Yeah, I don't think I was very sober when that happened.
I don't know if it still exists, because I did try and go onto Draxun's website to try and find pictures of it, and you can sort of see remnants of it in the background, but they don't even list it as an amenity anymore. So I imagine
as an activity.
Yeah, so I think there's probably, if I were to hazard a guess, maybe
the lost Mashie course,
paddle courts or something on it. So number 6, I would say Draxun, if it still exists. If we're talking about courses that don't exist, then I think at number 5, because I have included it, would be the old Emberton, where Emberton is now in Upper Highway. There used to be a Mashie course there and a driving range. That was a fun little track.
You must know how shit the Saddle and Trout must be if it's below 2 courses that don't exist anymore. Okay, so I mean, most people are probably going to skip those 3, 2 of which don't exist, and one of which is worse than this.
So yeah, by virtue of Draxun and Emberton not existing anymore, in reality, Saddle and Trout's actually top 5. But yeah, so Emberton, also non-existent, is my number 5. Number 4, I'm going to have to go with Windsor. So Windsor, I think, is my number 4. Windsor is obviously attached to the actual Windsor golf course, which is opposite Durban Country Club. Terence, I don't know if you want to say anything about Windsor.
No, I have played it. It's one of the few on your list that I've played, together with the one we played today. And that's about all I've got to say about it. I have played it.
So there we go.
Not a lot of standout memories.
I was going to say a glowing endorsement from Terence. A glowing endorsement. So if you want to go play Windsor, Terence has also played it. You're not saying go play it. You're just saying I've played it.
I've played it. It's playable. We finished. Yeah.
Well, if we're now looking at, you see, now we're in the top 3. I'm going to have to say the number. So I'm going to say number 3 is the whole course that we played today, which is a Shongweni one. I really do think, it deserves a spot in the top 3 of KZN Mashie courses out of the 5 that still exist. I mean, we've probably spoken about it enough. But yeah, I think it's a good new entry into the top 5 KZN Mashie courses, which is quite exclusive. Entry. Then we're pretty much down to the last 2, and one is similar to its namesake, and in terms of Mashies, I'm going to have to go firstly. Oh man, it's a tough one. Okay, number 2, I'm going to say Saint Lemire. So Saint Lemire's actually got a really nice little Mashie course next to the beach. If you play the stroke 1 at Saint Lemire, you can see the Mashie. Sometimes, maybe someone who's not paying attention, might accidentally go for one of the Mashie greens instead of the green at the stroke 1. But yeah, it's a very fun
Was
little
that
course.
the photo that you showed me today, or the video? Was that at San Lemire?
Yes, yeah. So that's the San Lemire Mashie.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it looks decent.
yeah, so it's a cool little course. Also, greens are lacquer. Some fun little holes. So yeah, San Lemire number 2 for me, and then number 1, much like its namesake. Unfortunately, unless you know someone who knows someone who lives there, you ain't playing this Mashie course, and that's Augusta Estate in Hillcrest. Um, they've got a little Mashie course in the estates, which they do a chicken run, and I must say, as far as Mashies go in KZN, I think Augusta will take it. There is a par 4 at Augusta, so I would say it's a drivable par 4, but they've cleverly made a house rule at Augusta that if you hit it past the old farmer's wall that goes through the middle of the par 4, it counts as out of bounds. So it's a compulsory par 4, and I think that was more to protect some of the houses that that are either side of the holes. If you're a startup golfer and you get an invitation to Augusta, the odds are you will break someone's window because there are houses pretty close to the fairways in Augusta. But yeah, for the most part, maybe we can do a separate podcast with Mr. Williams, who's part of the golf committee there. But Augusta, number 1 Mashie for me in KZN. Terence, what are your thoughts on that?
So now this is probably almost as contentious as Carl calling Simbiti a Mashie, because I think you may get the Goat Track might receive an official complaint from the golf committee at Augusta that it's been classified as a Mashie.
It's definitely a Mashie.
Because I've never played there, so I haven't had the honor. I haven't been invited.
Do you think someone from Augusta, and in fact, if someone from Augusta is listening to this, please get hold of me and make some sort of argument as to why it isn't a Mashie? Because, I mean,
so you were arguing earlier about well, you're not arguing. You're asking about a Mashie versus a par 3. So, do you not think that they would classify themselves as either a 9-hole course, because they do have a par 4 on there as well, or as like a par 3
a par 4 in parentheses?
Okay, what is it on the scorecard though?
It's a par 4. Actually, there's 2 par 4s. There's a par 4. The 9th is also a par 4. I forget about that. It's another one.
Oh yes, I love this. This is good. I like this is Jacques. This is Jacques' Mashie rating for KZN.
And Augusta is the best par 3 / Mashie course in KZN.
Yes, you're gonna get so many complaints. How would you classify Camelot then?
Ooh, isn't Camelot mostly par 4s though?
I've never played there, but is that so? Here's the thing: can a Mashie, is a Mashie course like is Augusta? Does Augusta have an official? Is it rated? Is it on the SAGA?
So they've got their own rating system at Augusta. So
of course,
I think much
like they're exactly like the real Augusta. They've got their own rules.
So they're more similar to like the River Club. The River Club, where it's like we don't want the guys from Golf Digest or the top 100 coming to our club. It's that exclusive. Okay. You're not allowed there without an invitation. I think it's quite similar.
So you have your own handicap at Augusta.
Correct.
Sure, it's very similar to the real Augusta in that way. They're just trailblazers. They make their own rules.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's the number 1 Mashie.
It was almost number 2. It was a massive toss up between the San Lemire one and Augusta.
Even better. I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback on that for the 10 people who've made it into the hour that we've been talking about Mashie golf courses. But
Look, all you need to do, Terence,
that's
is just
great.
cut.
I mean,
You're good at editing. Just cut this part out, this last 10 minutes, stick this at the front of the episode, and then we're good to go.
Headline, yeah. Augusta named we get a lot of clicks on that because it might be, they might mix it up with the real Augusta.
Augusta Hillcrest. It'll be like, I went the one. Everyone asked me, I went to New Year the one time in Boston, and they were like, oh yes, that must have been a wild New Year. I was like, Boston in the Natal Midlands.
It's like we've sent the winner of our Super Brew Rugby World Cup Super Brew to Paris for a weekend away.
Yeah,
a romantic weekend in Paris.
If you win the Super Brew, you can go watch the World Cup final in Paris.
Yes. Oh, Jacques, that was entertaining.
Terence, is there anything that you disagree with there? I mean, is the two non-existent Saddle and Trout stone last behind two non-existent par threes, followed by Windsor, then Shongweni, which we just played and raved about, which is number 3, behind San Lemire and Augusta, which is or is not a Mashie. I think that's a pretty solid list.
No, so the only 3 of those that I've played are Windsor, Saddle and Trout, and the Hill. And
no, you've also played Draxon. You just don't remember it.
Okay, well, I mean, whether or not that counts, it's I think we've declared it non-existent anymore. So yeah, I mean, my the Hill would be the easily the standout of those 3. So I haven't played San Lemire and I haven't played the world famous Mashie course known as Augusta. So I don't have any qualms with what you've done. I stand behind you. The goat track stands behind you on that rating.
And look, in Hoff's
what I would
absence,
like to see is a few more added to the list. I think Hoff would obviously put some BT in there.
I was going to say, in Hoff's absence, I would, if Simbiti, if the debate was one and Simbiti is a Mashie, it's a clear number 1 for me. I do fear that Hoff would not even put it on number 1 on this list, but let me not put words in his mouth.
Well, what I will give to Hoff is that Simbiti undoubtedly has 2 undeniably Mashie holes on us.
Yes,
and
just clarify clarify which holes those are.
I think they've got some really. Honestly, I think they've got some really, really, really great holes at Simbiti, and I think just to kind of just to let people know, like at the end of this, closer to Christmas, we're going to do an episode where we talk about our top 3, like par 3s, par 4s, and par 5s in KZN, because that's our place of abode. And I've already started crafting a couple of lists in my mind, and there's 1 or 2 holes at Simbiti that are possible contenders. So, but having said that, okay, so the first hole at Simbiti is literally probably plays. How long does that hole play? Probably 50 meters or
no. The first hole is that downhill one. Is that
60?
Are we thinking about the same hole?
Yeah, the first hole.
No, it's about 90 meters.
Okay, but it maybe 90 meters horizontal, but it probably plays about 70, 75. Yeah. I don't know, but you get there and you're like, oof, is the whole course going to be like this? It's a bit of a tough scene as an opening hole.
Yeah,
and then the 17th hole is, I mean, it's a fun Mashie hole. I mean, if that was on the course today, we would have been like, fuck, this is the best hole on the course.
Yeah.
But it's a little tough after playing some really, really good holes on that back nine at Simbiti. So I just wish they had a little bit more space there for a different tee or something. But anyway, that's I do think Hoff's a little off the mark with the rest of it, but it is a fun take that he has, and I want to hear his top 3 sometime as well. He probably just has a top 1. It's probably just like Simbiti. It's probably the only one he's played. Nice
so Terence, with your top par 3s, I imagine the 7th at the hill at Shongweni is going to get a spot somewhere.
Yeah, I mean that was the best hole for me. The 7th at the hill was the best hole. I don't know what you think.
No, definitely.
Maybe just because it was a full club, but it wasn't. That was probably the nicest hole today. Yeah, Jacques, I think we've done a good job. Yeah, I do think the one thing is, and God, this without us being too KZN focused, which let's be honest, that's the only way at the moment. That's just the way this nature of this podcast is, because this is where we live. But a bit like the halfway houses, I do think we really like scratching for Mashies if you compare us a bit like we scratch for halfway houses compared to the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Because I know up in Joburg they have some really great like Mashie courses at some of the driving ranges. I know a friend of mine used to play at lunchtime. His business was like basically built around like a Mashie course. They had like a corporate park, and he would send me photos. He'd be like, "Oh, they would just play 9 holes at lunchtime. It'd take like 45 minutes, you know." And then Cape Town, we've spoken about. There's the river club. There's a couple of other ones. So, yeah, once again, we're scratching a little bit when it comes to decent Mashies. But yeah, hopefully the hill is the start of something new. And again, looking for. I'm very keen to try and get something going up on the North Coast. So if anyone has like 5 hectares of land that they don't know what to do
that they're willing to
like,
rent at a nominal value.
Yeah, like if you feel like development's too much of a schlep, you know, which it is. I mean, you can attest to how hard it is developing land, Jacques. Let's do something else with it. You know?
Well, can I just say also that the vacant rates are exceptionally high, and I think there would be an argument to be made that if you put a Mashie course, you would substantially reduce it, and you could say, well, it's not vacant anymore. We're using it as a business. So if you want to set off maybe your rates for vacant property that is developable in a later stage, give us a shout. We'll happily think about putting a Mashie course in it.
What would we would do a quick rezoning there to something a hell of a lot cheaper from a rates perspective. Anyway, we'll put a flyer together for those clients out there who who love the game of golf, who don't want to densify their land
and want to pay less rates.
There we go. Sorry, I'm probably approaching it from the wrong angle. You've got the financial, the brain on it. Well, listen, Jacques, I think we must close it up there. We've gone 20 minutes over our 45 minutes.
I'm sure you can edit out a lot of the shit at the beginning, Terence, and cut it down.
Well, I think we spoke about your internet connection for about 12 minutes.
That's what I'm talking about. That has to go.
But listen, thanks for playing today. We're going to put a video out on the gram, the Instagram at some point. Obviously, spoiler alert on who won, but there was some pretty decent little Mashie golf that was played out there. I think we must maybe come up with some more defined rules next time. Maybe look at clubs. Maybe bring it down to just the 2 clubs.
Or even better, your opponent gets to choose one of your 3 clubs, and you have to play a couple of shots with it.
Sure. Yeah. Or if you win a hole, you can take one of your opponent's clubs away.
Until he's kicking his ball. So you got 3 clubs, and you you win 3 holes, and he doesn't have any clubs left.
Yeah, well, just don't lose 3 holes. That's what we're saying. Yeah, we've got the SA Open coming up this weekend. So was hoping to go up and watch some of it, but it just hasn't really worked out. Are you kind of interested at all in watching the SA Open? Anything piqued your interest there?
I'm very interested to see how the guys do at Blair Athol. I'm always interested to see how those pros play at Blair Athol, because for me it's such a difficult course. But I think it's difficult because of the distance. But as a mere mortal, it would be. I think those pros don't have.
Apparently,
so much
it's the longest course ever I saw something today. It's going to be set up as the longest ever course played on the European Tour in European Tour history.
Look, I'm interested to see if
and
it's
the
going to
guys are
produce one of those, like, if it comes out and the winning score is like a 12 under or a 10 under, you know, it'll be interesting to see that what the winning score is. I think that's obviously, I'd love to see a South African win, and maybe someone like Dean Burmester, who seems to be in some form and can also hit it a mile, is a bit of a favourite. It is quite nice seeing the live guys play the South African events. But yeah, I mean, I love the SA Open. It's a great one, and I love the fact that it's at Blair Athol. Blair Athol's a brilliant course and great nick, and it's a good advert for South African golf.
I'll tell you what I'm quite interested in watching is there's a little game within a game is the amateur, the Freddie Tate Cup, because you've got Christo Lamprecht, who's the number one amateur in the world now. He's playing. I mean, he's just an interesting guy to watch generally because he's like 7 feet tall and just like a ridiculously crazy swing. And then you've got Christian Maas, who won it last year, who was essentially Christo Lamprecht's caddy at the British Amateur when he won. So, and there's a couple of other young guys. I don't know. I'm feeling a bit despondent about our current sort of batch of pro golfers. So I'm looking towards these young amateurs to hopefully be our future. So I think that's what I'm going to be watching. I want to be watching who wins the low am. And who knows? Maybe one of them could actually win the whole thing, which would also be epic to have an amateur sort of in the top 5 or top 10. So I think that's about as much as piques my interest. Cool, man. Well, let's wrap it up. And we will also next week we'll be doing sort of like a year in or in 2 weeks' time we'll do a South African golf year in review, which according to our initial show notes is going to be we're probably going to have less to talk about than we did about Mashie golf. It's been a bit of a tough year on South African golf front.
Would you say
amateur
that
golf and
we're gonna link some South African golfers to the Draxon and Emberton of Mashie courses?
No, I think that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, we'll do some comps. We'll do some comps to the Mashie courses. So. Awesome. That's a great idea. Awesome, Jacques. Thank you for joining again. Shout out to Carl on the birth of his son. Congratulations, Mr. Hoffman. We know you're an avid listener. You'll be your first one to download.
You have to. A hell of a year. He has to do a pod from Baby City parking lot now. It's tradition.
I was just about to say it. That's got to be compulsory. Been a hell of a year for you guys. You've both had kids and you've started a podcast, taking a lot on. No, but it's awesome. We do look forward to Carl's Baby City episode at some point. Hopefully he'll join us for the SA Golf and Review, which will be good to get his takes on some of our AM hopefuls, because I know he keeps his eye on some of the youngsters. Awesome, man. Jacques, we will catch up in about 2 weeks.
Thank you, Terence.